social media and marketing with Emily Steele, owner of Love Local. Emily is a creative entrepreneur who has spent the last 10 years finding innovative ways to make a difference, from launching a local bike ride that has given a community in Ghana access to clean water, to creating the hashtag DSM hummingbirds to match businesses with local influencers. Emily has an ability to take an idea and mobilize it by getting the community on board. Emily has been extremely influential in my business, and I'm fortunate to call her a friend. And also, she was the one who helped push me to leave my full-time job and take on business baking as my full-time career. So I'm very excited for you all to talk to her today, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Yay! Thanks for having me. This is so exciting. When you suggested this idea, I think Christina and Chelsea, I was like, oh, this is good. It's a great lineup, so many great sessions. And so I'm so grateful to be part of this. The local business community has been something I've been super passionate about for the last decade or so. So today we get to dive into social media, a little bit of digital marketing, and just kind of what's working to build an online presence that supports your local food business. So before we dive into everything, I want to share a couple of the experiences that led me to be here, to be able to talk about this, to be able to be an expert, subject matter expert on in these categories. So this is me, which is, here I am, shorter hair today, but I love teaching people how they can use the internet to build and nurture beautiful relationships, which really in return impacts the bottom line of your company and your own life as a human along the way. So it all really started in 2010, back when I thought I was going to be a blogger, had dark red hair. I always did my weekly Friday fives. It was something I just thought was really fun. I was talking about like smoothies and like probably hair accessories or whatever. It was very informal. And I realized that people were starting to read them. I would post it on Facebook back then, 7 a.m. Fridays, pre-algorithm. And I started seeing people commenting, messaging, saying, hey, that really landed. That really made an impact in my life. Or I really like that book you recommended. I ended up reading it. And I started to have this realization of how powerful this simple connection to Friday fives was for people in my life that I knew since either I was like an infant that was my Facebook friend, or someone I had just met last week in classes on campus at Drake University. And it was really interesting to start putting myself out there in a way that people felt like they knew me, that they were connected to me. And what I realized over time is that I was building equity in me and Emily Boyd, then now Steele. And so I loved the journey of communications. That's why I have a PR and marketing degree. And when I graduated college in 2012, I decided that I wanted to bike cross country, raise money for clean water projects, and kind of get my last hurrah in before, I spend the next like 30, 40, 50 decades working the rest of my life. And this was really when I was like, okay, doing this trip, raising money for clean water projects, I am using communications to do things that matter in the world. And I love it. And we raised collectively, I think, $40,000. And so this was a moment that I was like, I can do this for and with other types of companies. So after I did this bike ride and spent a year doing AmeriCorps, I ended up doing a lot of different things. Nonprofit was definitely the path I thought I was going to be on my entire life, because I thought that was the only way you can make a difference, was through nonprofit work. A lot has changed. But I worked on building a multi-million-dollar neighborhood revitalization campaign on the east side of Des Moines, started Pop-Up Yoga DSM. If anyone's been a yogi at a pop-up yoga class, that was a brand that I started as a nonprofit, because I thought if you're going to do good, you have to do it under a 501c3. And that I was introducing people to yoga in new parts of the city, and really bringing yoga out of the studio and into the community, so it was more accessible for people. Built the water ride for clean water projects, because I was so inspired by that work, that we continue to do year after year. And then some of you may be familiar with Fem City Des Moines. I had the opportunity to run that organization for a few years, and grew that membership from 5 to 500 women in a year, using a lot of these strategies I get to teach you today. Some that I wish I had back in 2017, 18, 19, that are even better now. And then I have a community tech startup company that is called the Hummingbirds, where we match companies with local messengers. They call them pollinators because it's perfect for hummingbirds to really get the word out on social media about cool things happening in our community and businesses doing great work. And so all of this experience I've had over the last decade working with nonprofits, big projects, small events, and lots of different types of people, local business owners, all of these conversations has led to this brand that I own today called Love Local, where we really put resources and community for local business owners everywhere at the top of everything we do, from our podcast to our blog series to things like this, where we just get to share what we're learning and doing with real people very similar to you who have a locally based business. I think there's a difference. Kristen, you might agree with this too, like small business, local business, they're in the same, local fits in the small business bucket, but it's really different when you're operating in a very specific geographic area and working to serve like your local community. And so our goal is to really refine the expertise around solidifying kind of market and mind share in one specific community. So the biggest thing that I want to stress over anything else I can teach you on social media, on digital marketing, on just marketing in general, and your online presence is this quote. It's if you've been to any of my presentations before, this is a quote I put in every single talk I do because it's just that important. And Carla's a fantastic example of this because she embodies it so beautifully in how she shows up in the business world. And it's quote by Maya Angelou. You can read this yourself, but it's really like this idea that at the end of the day, people aren't going to remember any of your social media posts, maybe a few if they were really meaningful and touching, but people will remember how you made them feel. And they'll remember this in their interactions with you as they buy your product. They will remember this in the way that you show up for them, maybe at their grand opening, or, even in little ways from like snail mail or just the things that maybe go above and beyond for someone. People at the end of the day, not to get like super esoteric or anything, but people want to feel seen. We want to feel like people appreciate us, like we're worthy. We want to be recognized. So if we can be that person for others in even just the smallest ways by sharing their Instagram posts, like people remember that and they want to reciprocate that. So throughout everything in this presentation today, at the core of it is thinking about how you're making people feel, which is brand. So we have business, we have brand. Brand is where I like to play and what I like to talk about. I feel like there are a lot of experts who can talk about the business side. I think that's what you guys did last week during your other sessions is like kind of these like, okay, what's your bookkeeping? Like, these are the things that I'm not good at. I like the brand. And this is the part of business that is really probably your strongest competitive advantage is how if you can shape how other people feel about you, it can really differentiate yourself on the customer journey. This is really what can set you apart in the market. And I just was seeing in the chat right as I hopped on, I can't even remember, it's like not right in front of me, but someone was talking about like other people want you to do a specific like liquid smoke, but you know that your specific flavor, whatever you use is like better. That's your differentiating thing. What I would recommend is like, hold on to that. If no one else, you are the only one running your business. So you don't have to listen to that. Now I see my chat opening. So you're probably saying something here, but I'm gonna keep going and stop when we need to. So as we think about how we make people feel with brand, let's talk a little bit about the customer journey, because before I just jump in and say, here's where you should hang out and what you should post and what you should do, I think this can be either foundational or you can look at it as like the big picture thing. So the customer journey is incredibly important because all of these touch points can be accessed through social, through digital, through just that in-person experience and connection you have with your customers, from discovery to raving fan. So I just want to walk through it because I think all of these different touch points on the journey of someone engaging with your brand matters, and the touch point is going to look different. So discovery is someone finding you. And that can be a lot of different ways. Maybe someone just shared the product of yours they tried for the first time and tagged you on their stories. Boom, it enters my story. And I'm like, what's that? I go and I go check you out, right? That's one simple example of someone else sharing your stuff. which is why I love social. And then we go to the interest category. Interest is someone going to your profile or going to your website and sticking around for a while. Maybe they read your blog post or they scroll through your pages. They really want to understand the about you and what you stand for and what you do, or they like or they follow your Instagram page, or they subscribe to something, or they opt into your email list. That definitely is that kind of like next step, right? Like this is like the dating to marriage thing. So that interest step is also important on the journey. And then we kind of move into that engagement. Maybe someone sends you a direct email inquiring about your product. Maybe someone's sending that DM or a message in Facebook, or actually commenting on your stuff, being like, wow, that resonated, or they're answering a question that you've prompted in a post or a piece of content. And so that person is like, okay, like, I'm curious now, like, I want to actually like start building a relationship with this brand. And then we move to the buyer part of it. Someone's like, okay, you seem legitimate enough or desirable enough for me to actually exchange dollars with you. And then of course, that moment of buyer to the final part of raving fan is one of those pieces that I think as business owners, we can and should pay a lot more attention to, because if you delight someone enough with their first engagement with your product, and it's not even just the product itself, right? Like hopefully you have really wonderfully tasting food. And that's why you're in business, right? Because it is so good and people want to keep buying from you. But that moment between buying for the first time and buying the second time and people referring you over and over again is really important, and something you can capture beautifully using social and email and, you know, even like snail mail and handwritten notes or anything. But that moment between buyer and raving fan is part of that customer journey that we want to take people from discovery to interest to engagement to buyer to raving fan. So I think one of the things that kind of just what we talked about with the ingredients is consumers are looking for different. Consumers aren't necessarily looking for the best. Consumers are more and more intrigued about how you're different as a company. And it could be your values. It could be as simple as like what types of people you're hiring, what type of neighborhood you decided to invest in, where you source your ingredients. There's something about your brand that's different. And that consumer behavior, we'll get a little bit into that, we can nerd out on that together. These trends are showing that people would prefer that much more than you having the quote unquote best, right? So I still see this all the time. You can drive down the interstate and there's all these signs that say, we're the best X, we're the best Y, we're voted #1 here and here. And yes, that definitely is some social proof and like other people validating you, your company and companies via like voting awards and things like that. But today's consumer, many of them are looking for that sweet spot of how you're different, not necessarily better. So now to the good stuff, where to show up in 2021, where consumers are ready to purchase and where they're ready to engage and spend that time with you. So our favorite places at Love Local, if we were to just give you kind of a dump of like, you know, we have less than an hour together, here's where I'm going to pay the most attention to, because these are the areas that will move the needle the most for your business today and hopefully for years to come. But of course, this is why we have in 2021 on this slide, because TikTok is existing now and there's this Clubhouse thing and all the things. And so we can really cut through the noise of all of that and just put our like blinders on and just say, these are the ones that would move the needle. If I were in your shoes today, these are the places I would spend time in your type of business. So Instagram, oh my heart, this is where I spend the most time and it's loaded with features. I think Instagram now has 7 different features, from like stories to reels to IGTV to posts to XYZ, that actually truly support the connection, discovery, loyalty, and they make it really easy for visibility in a way that no other platform can do in a local market. So we're going to start with some of the like 101 stuff, just because I know there are so many people here who are like, oh, I've been scared to get on Instagram and I haven't. And then some of you are like, I've been doing this for a long time. It's like my #1 place. So I'm going to try to touch all of you on different journeys of Instagram. So if you're like, I already know this, we'll just go along with it and maybe learn something new. So let's think about first impression, the discovery, right? Someone's landing on your Instagram profile the first time. You want to make sure your bio does a really good job of showcasing who you are and what you do. And you have limited space for this. And so you really have to be clear and concise with what you're doing. If your user profile does not have your location in it, the number one thing that can happen is people just don't understand if your brand is for them or not, because if you don't identify what community you're in, people are like, well, where is this? And if you confuse them, you lose them. It's kind of a phrase us marketers say. So we want to make sure when I say number 3, community specific, that maybe you use that like little icon that shows your location. And then 4, action oriented, book your first order with us here. DM to inquire. Tell people what to do next. So if they are ready to take the next step in learning about you or ordering from you, how do they do that? And of course, you can get creative. You can use emojis. You can make words smaller if you need to. But remember, this is the place you're making a first impression. So here, Trixie's is a perfect example. She's a student that we've worked with in our Instagram course, but she did a really good job of making sure that she gave herself a lot of social proof by sharing we're the top 200 salon. We provide guests with personalized 5-star services. We serve Des Moines with 2 locations. So we've got DSM. If you see that and you're in Des Moines, you know what DSM means, right? And unique people are our kind of people, just a little bit of fun, playfulness. So she's also done a really good job, their company has rather, of having these highlights ready and available for people. For anyone who's what are highlights or should I use them? I almost look at any social media profile as a mini website. When you look at these sections here, you're almost looking at your navigation bar on your website. So people maybe want to look more at previous orders or what reviews people are leaving, or the process, walking us through how you make your food. So you can use these as almost if someone's coming in and they want to creep on you a little bit more without scrolling through all of your posts that you've ever done. This is kind of the next spot they'll hang out, besides looking at your stories, which is probably what they'll do first if you have any that are live. So that's your bio. This is what people are seeing the first time they pop over to your profile for the first time. So it's important to kind of give a great first impression. Jess is another one of our students, and maybe you had mentioned that she had been in this earlier. She knows her craft and she knows her specialty is macarons. And so this is a little bit older of a profile, so she might've edited this, but I think the biggest thing I wanted to share here is that make sure your logo fits in the circle. This is not me being a petty person, but rather wanting you to succeed. And I know that there's some credibility that, if you don't fit in the circle, it's we want to show people we know what we're doing. We know how to show up powerfully here. This is a place we want to connect. And by doing things in a way that says we know how to utilize this platform in the way that it exists, it's just a positive impact you can make. So just make sure that's as clear and sharp as it can be, that logo fits in that circle. I'm not someone who believes you need a perfect brand or perfect logo or anything like that. Create things in Canva. Here it is. Here's one example. So we did, but at least make sure it fits in the circle. And when you think about your content for Instagram, instead of saying, oh, I need X amount of posts a week, I need to do this perfect content calendar, all of this stuff, really want you to think, maybe twist it a little bit to think, how does my content connect with others in my local community? I'll give you lots of examples. How can I create content that educates or inspires my followers, my community? How do I elevate other people along the way? And then how do I create that external validation so other people are validating me on my own profile? So I'll show you what that means here. So one of the posts we did here, just to show a little bit of engagement, what this looks like every day, how to celebrate Earth Day by shopping local. One of the prompts we put here was just tag some of your favorite sustainable shops down below, just giving people the opportunity to tag people they like or enjoy. So these sometimes work. We have hit or miss with our Love Local account here. Sometimes people get really excited about commenting, and other times it's you just need a couple people to get the comments started to get the rest going. So always have a couple friends that you're hey, this is pretty quiet. Will you add a comment to this, get things going? And so this is just a great way from that engagement standpoint to ask people to comment below. If we don't ask them, they probably won't do it on their own. Another thing that one of our students did, Kind Roots, is create eco tips. for her business. And I'm sure she did this in Canva using a template, or maybe she created this on her own. And this is a great way to create content that people want to save. So when we think about really good content, especially on Instagram, we ask, is this shareable? This little button here, the airplane, or is it something you would save? When you think about saving, it's like almost, if you haven't done it before, it's almost like your own little internal Pinterest board. It's just glorious that you can refer to posts later. When you do these things as a user, it tells Instagram that this is good content. And when Instagram thinks you have good content, they show more people your content. It's like part of their algorithm. So this is a great thing that was done here. And it's really great for sharing or saving. It's something that people can come back to, and it adds a ton of value to people who are kind of thinking about this, their own personal journey of sustainability, if that's something they care about. Next is our friends at the Side Garage. Love Ashley. She has created an opportunity where she does, you can purchase an item once a month for their Humankind collection. And when you buy something from this Humankind collection, you feel like you're part of something. And so she does this on a regular basis and gets the community involved. So when she's tagging this brand, Good Vibes, they get a cut of probably something sold here. So it's likely that they're going to share this as well. And when they share it, now they're introducing their network to the Side Garage. There's this like beautiful thing that happens when you're sharing, everyone's kind of co-sharing all of the cool collaborations happening. So I mentioned this because there maybe are some cool ways that you can do that with your business as well. Maybe it's making a specific type of food once a month for someone you want to celebrate, and then you uplift them, and then they share it, and all this like good, happy stuff happens on Instagram. So love that this is part of her content strategy and what they do at the Side Garage. And then here, just to show kind of an example of kind of the external validation that I spoke about, when other people say nice things about you, it's way better than you saying great things about yourself. So if you have the best chocolate chip cookies in the world, in your opinion, that's great. And like, I'll probably kind of believe you, but when I see 25 other people saying that about you, I'm going to believe it more. And so you can find ways to add these to your stories and then ultimately to your highlights. And you can pop over to Love Local if you need an example of this. But we've also done it through shared testimonials and people taking time to cut a video. If you never ask for these things, people aren't naturally inclined to just do that. So never, ever, ever be afraid to ask your customers to leave a review, to tell you what they love about their experience with you. If it's ever relevant, to do a video testimonial or photo of them with the product, like you can incentivize it or reward it. This is just so important to creating that like other people seeing. So for example, if I see like Christina validating a product she tried in her stories, and I like Christina, then I'll probably like this product. All these things are, of course, happening subconsciously. We don't even realize it, but these are the things that help us make decisions in local communities. And so when we see our peers recommending something, we're all of a sudden like, oh, that looks interesting. What's that? Oh, if she likes it, I might like it. So as often as you can, infusing other people's perceptions or experience with your brand can be a really strong move from the Instagram standpoint. I'm going to open chat just to make sure I'm not like totally missing things. Oh, I'm just going to answer this since we're in this. And do you have a recommendation for the best way to communicate location? I would just say your city, if that's okay. That would be perfect. Or if you serve all of Iowa or serve a specific demographic, I think you could do that without ever saying your address for sure. Love that. If that's helpful, let me know in the comments. I'll keep going. And feel free if you're noodling on anything, just to drop it in the chat and I'll pop in and answer. Instagram stories are the place most people are spending time on Instagram. I don't know about you, but that's the first place I go for sure. And this is where you can really connect with your audience by sharing slices of your day, your life, behind the scenes, your business, your values, your kid, your father-in-law. And your most powerful content as a local business owner, as a local creator, maker, is you. And I know that really annoys people because it's like, can't my product just be good enough on its own? Can I just create beautiful images? Yes, comma, but you are your greatest asset as the owner, as someone who's created this thing that you're really passionate about, that you've, maybe sacrificed a full-time job or other things in your life. So people want to know who they're supporting, because at the end of it, like if I see someone who has competing products, for example, and this person here is talking about how they also have cats, and they talk, maybe they're a new mom like I am, or there's some touch points where I'm like, oh, like this person I relate or I resonate, or this person's sharing about like a cause they're contributing to, that humanizes their brand so much more than the person just sharing the product. And you can still create success by not showing up as yourself. I definitely don't want to make anyone feel like you have to do this, but it just makes it easier for people to connect. And when people feel like they can connect with someone, they kind of feel like they want to support them. So I will say, do not treat Instagram like a billboard. That is so 2015 and it doesn't work anymore. The idea that you can just dump a bunch of canned content into your social media scheduler of choice and push it out is not the name of the game anymore. And I think it's really important to note that, because I still see people really disappointed when Instagram isn't working for them and they're using methods that are outdated. And so we want to think more about pulling people in to us and our community we've created on social versus pushing out information. Hey, here's our new product. Here's this thing. Like, get people voting on the new flavors they think you're going to like bring to your product. Like, there's so many creative ways to engage your community where they like feel like they're part of like what's going on in the business, even if they're not, even if you've already decided what your flavor is. Like, give people an opportunity to engage, and you will see some traction in your business that feels really, really cool. 64% of consumers want brands to connect with them. This is there are some really cool trends here I'll share, because I like consumer behavior is probably one of my favorite things. And things are changing really rapidly with brands and how consumers are making decisions today. People want to work with brands that align with their values. Even, I'm not saying you can or should or need to do this, but even taking a stance politically has some benefits if you're really trying to isolate who you want to target as your ideal customer. People are drawn to brands that provide a compelling experience. That's part of that customer journey I talked about. Customers are drawn to brands that feel human, and consumers are drawn to brands that make them feel like they are part of something. This is the biggest shift I've seen in the market of people wanting to feel connected to a brand. Like, when you are a brand, like when you order from a brand and you want to share it on social because you have this positive association with that brand, like that's when you know you're starting to do things really well and right. It's when people start sharing your stuff because they feel like they're wearing their brand on their sleeve. That's why Nike is such a great example of this, because like if you love Nike, you're proud to have Nike logos all over whatever you wear. So these trends do matter. And so if you make people feel like they're part of what you're building and creating, you will feel it in your business in a more meaningful way. So my view of Instagram is really treating like you're at a networking event and you're there to engage, get to know people, comment, share cool stuff you see, DM, message people. And instead of treating it like the old school version of posting, it's more like, how do I come here to connect? Because people don't come to social media to be sold to, right? Like when you start seeing your friends start selling whatever thing through like direct sales, and I'm not dissing this by any means, you're kind of like, okay, this is all they're going to post about on Facebook for the next 3 months. Got it. And really like that we don't come to social media to be sold to. That's what Facebook ads and Instagram ads do. Yes, there's like a time and a place to sell and to share, of course. But remember, at the heart of every person using these apps, they're coming to connect, to kill time, just see what their friends are up to. So just remember that as you create content. Just a few other things with the Instagram, just to visually show what you can do to build connections, build rapport, build trust. I love that stupid share button that Instagram says they might get rid of, which is freaking me out. The share button is so powerful when you share other people's posts and tag them here. Like this is what I did on a story when Grade A Gardens were raising their money to build this barn. They get to see that I support them. And then I'm introducing my audience to this really cool Kickstarter thing happening for Grade A Gardens. And it just reaches more people. It builds trust with Grade A Gardens and hopefully introduces my network of followers to something that they feel like they can be part of to make a difference in the food scene. So the thing I like to say too is when you elevate others, you also elevate yourself. Like when you put a spotlight on others, this was the thing that I really focused on with Fem City when we were building, was anytime someone would become a new member, I put them all over the internet. And I just made everything about them and how, I'm so grateful they're part of the community. And then I added a Fem City tag, our group, to it. So then people are like, wow, I didn't know she was doing so much in her business. What is this thing? She's a part of Fem City. All of a sudden we would get 50 new people joining the group because they were inspired by this person we were spotlighting. And then they wanted to see what this was all about. So when you elevate others, you elevate yourself, and it really is a win-win scenario. And then of course you have the ability to DM people, to create one-on-one relationships. This is the stuff that no one sees. It doesn't matter how many followers you have. You can engage with every single one of them if you want to just see what they're up to in the world, support them, congratulate them, deepen relationships. And of course, doing this really does lead to action takers for your business. And then of course, if I wasn't talking about the hummingbirds, shame on me. So like if you want people to talk about you, to build that social proof, you can work with the people you reach out to on your own, or work with companies like ours to find people who can go out in the community, try your product, and then share it with their friends and family, especially if they had a really meaningful experience about it. Again, that's just building that social proof. Other people saying you're awesome is better than you saying you're awesome. So one of the things, again, our motto is when you invest in your community invests in you. And I hope from this Instagram side alone, you feel like investment doesn't have to be like, you don't have to go to everyone's ribbon cutting or everyone's thing. You don't have to show up physically. Like, we have learned in COVID that you can show up online virtually and support people by sharing their stuff, commenting, connecting them through different comments, right? And saying, someone could mention your brand in a comment of, hey, what's your favorite pie baker in town? And if someone tags you, you can take the time to message them on Facebook and say, wow, thank you so much for recommending my company. That means the world to me. Send them a little gift card to a local coffee shop. Like, you can do so many things to invest in your community of buyers and followers. And in return, they'll want to invest back in you. Reciprocity is so beautiful. Okay, any questions on Instagram so far that I can answer? It's changing all the time too, by the way. I love it. Look at this. If you want to unmute yourself, you totally can. If you're that kind of person who doesn't want to type anything out. I'm going to take a drink too. No? Okay. Instagram experts. I love it. Okay. Whereas those questions come up, I'll drop my email too. So if you need more time to think about things, that's great. Let's talk about the Facebook. For better or worse, we're going to talk about it. Facebook actually isn't my favorite place anymore, as much as it used to be like a decade ago. Just things have really changed. Anyone else observe that? Especially if you've been in business for a long time, you're probably feeling like you're banging your head against a wall with some of the Facebook changes that continually are made. So I'm going to show you some of the best ways to use Facebook if you do still use it today and want to make the most of your time. So Facebook in 2021, it is harder to get post visibility on a business page because Facebook is a pay-to-play platform now. Users don't come online to be sold to, they come to connect. Just shared that with Instagram. It's relevant on Facebook as well. Facebook groups, live video, using Facebook Live, and personal relationships are what you can leverage and maybe should leverage to get that organic growth and some organic traction. So let me show you what that looks like. So you can use Facebook to build relationships and invest in people. So one of the things I really love about Facebook is people come to ask for recommendations. They might do it in a Facebook group. They might do it on their feed. I do this every once in a while. I'm like, what's everyone's favorite tacos in Des Moines? Just watching people's, guys, people have strong opinions on their tacos. But it's such a fun way to build relationships and like put something out there that you get people's feedback from. I feel like we live in kind of an announcement culture now, where it's like people only post when they have something to announce, but you can use Facebook more to build relationships, get ideas, offer suggestions, or get suggestions from people. And this is something like Amanda posted just in a Fem City Facebook group, like, who does this? And the people who take time to respond, refer other people, tag other people, are super valuable in these groups and in our community as well. So being that connector and investing in people and becoming the person who introduces others to people is such a valuable way to use the Facebook. And of course, Facebook groups can be one of the best places to find your ideal customers. I'm biased, but I'm back to the Fem City thing. There are so many other Facebook groups. You just type Des Moines into your search, the search part of Facebook, and you can start seeing like there are moms groups, there are food lovers groups, there are so many places that you can come and just connect. I think sometimes people use Facebook groups, and I'm in a few of these that I'm like about to leave, but they just come and they use it like a billboard. Is anyone else in these groups where you're like, all it's used for is like just self-promotion? And that's not a bad thing. Like you can promote yourself and should, like, I want you to advocate for the amazing business you've built. But like when a group just becomes about self-promotion, it's like, to me, it's so boring. I want to see like other book recommendations and articles that can inspire. And like, again, if you're leading with this content and being of value, people will want to reciprocate that because you're not asking them of anything, right? Everyone else self-promotes. How can you be different? That's like, you can be. There's a lot of room for that. There's also, I think this is sometimes not focused on enough, and this is kind of the personal brand side of business growth. But when you look at your own personal profile, are you connected to being the owner of your business? Is your business page connected in this little intro part? You have access to edit this pretty well. I think you can do quite a few things to like remove things, add things. So what I imagine happens, well, I know this happens. You bump into a friend and they're like, hey, what's new? Oh yeah, we just got a new neighbor. Did you, like Sophie just moved in next door. You know Sophie? No, what does she do? Like, because that's what Americans ask. And then you share and then they're like, oh, that's really interesting. So you go to Facebook and you look up this Sophie gal and all of a sudden you're on the profile and you're trying to understand what Sophie's all about. Here is that impression you get of this person right here. And this happens on LinkedIn, Instagram, you name it. But if you think about how people are going to be making decisions about you in that discovery phase, we want to make sure we're giving them the most chance for success as possible. So do link to your business page, highlight your role in the community or your business, the company, not the community, and include your website if that's relevant, if that's something you have. I love talking about what we do in my companies on my personal profile without talking about it through selling. And you can pop over to my personal profile if you ever want to, just to kind of see how I do it. Not saying like it's the best or right way to do it, but there's a way to talk about your business without being like, hey, we have XYZ, buy it today. It's more about the storytelling of why you created a new product or the brand or something you're experiencing in the business, that sort of thing. And then of course, if you use the live feature, Facebook loves that. There's some cool examples. There's so many ways you can use live video. It's a thing. Some people are like, I don't want to do video. You don't have to do this. I'm just telling you that when you use Facebook's platform, they like it. And I will also note in the same post that if you have noticed, this happens, I feel like this is still, people don't know this yet. And I hope this adds value to you because it's frustrating. So like when I talk about Flourish, which I'll share at the end here, and I post a link for people to go to Eventbrite to go buy their ticket, or for here to like join Whitney's Enneagram thing. Facebook is like, you're sending people out of our app, the app where we can put Facebook ads in front of people and get money from our customers. No, we're going to ding that. We're not going to show people your Facebook post with a link that will take people out of the app, because that makes we don't make money that way. We don't make money when people exit the app. So some people do it by adding the link in the comments. I mean, Facebook, like they're billions and billions of dollars. Like they have a lot of ways to mitigate that. So as often as possible, if you can direct people to message you or comment below, like that's going to get in more people's feed, just so you know. Okay, how are we doing on time? Do I have 20 more minutes?
10
more
minutes.
minutes. What'd you say?
We have until 10 after.
Okay, we're gonna keep moving. Okay, Facebook, just to final thing here, sharing your everyday life allows your followers and friends to learn more about your values, what you care about, and find commonalities. I think in the world of social, we're just depositing information on people all the time. And some of these things we're like, ooh, you're a cat person, you're my kind of person. Or some other people are gonna see that and be like, ooh, gross. I hate cats. Like, you're depositing that information on people, and it's not a good or bad thing. It's just what happens. But the more you do this and the more you build those commonalities, the more you become top of mind. You don't have to post every day, but when you have something interesting, as simple as like when I was obsessed with, oh my gosh, the mochas over at Zanzibar's are really, really good. Their mochas, warm in the winter, just like joy in a cup. And I remember posting about that and being like, what's your favorite mocha? And just the amount of comments, or favorite winter beverage, the comments, people are like, where did you get that? What is that? You know, all of these things happening. It's wild that that can help you become top of mind for what you do in the world, but it's those connection points, and they do matter. And in The Go-Giver, one of my favorite business books of all time, it takes like an hour to read. As long as you're trying to be someone else or putting on some act or behavior someone else taught you, you have no possibility of truly reaching people. The most valuable thing you have to give people is yourself. No matter what you think you're selling, what you're really offering is you. So I'll say that just in general, as we've talked this whole thing, you are your greatest asset for sure. Okay, the final little segment before we wrap up, I do want to address email marketing because it's complementary to social and it's so important. And I would feel like a jerk if I didn't talk about it, because it's that important. If Instagram or Facebook were to go away, you don't get to bring the followers with you. They go away. When you have an email list and you have people who have bought or people who are opting in or they're interested, you own those email addresses. You don't own MailChimp, of course, but you own the emails you can export at any time. They're yours to keep forever. And it's way easier to directly communicate with your existing customers or leads than on Instagram or Facebook, where you're kind of hoping the algorithm serves it to your customers. So people with email lists tend to generate more sales and more business than people without. Chelsea, just giving the raise the roof. I love it. So just to talk kind of like email marketing 2.0. So it's 2021. Things have definitely changed. When you say something like join my newsletter, and that's just a lot different than saying like, do you want to get like access to the best recipes for blah, 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 versus saying like join my newsletter. So think about when you're asking people to join your email list, why? Why am I going to add my email to yet another email subscription list that I'm going to receive, dozens of promotional emails a day? And if you can, write as the business owner every once in a while. Not always, you can showcase your products, but if you write something from the soul from you, where people are buying from you, it makes a big difference. So storytelling in the first person to connect with the reader versus treating it like a billboard where you're pushing out information yet again, it's different. It's that pull marketing versus the push marketing. And then, like I mentioned, finding creative ways to draw people into your lists. There are really, really cool automation processes where you can, in MailChimp at least, which is what I recommend here for people who are like, where do I get started? You can do a single welcome email. So if someone buys for the first time and you add them, what you can do is send them like a thank you, like thanks for your first order, blah, blah, blah. Here's what we're all about. Like, just give someone an opportunity to connect with you even more. And it's fairly easy to do. I have a free email marketing course, so I can send to anyone who's like, I want to learn this. So just a few ideas on what you can share in the subject lines. Like, am I going to open your email? Am I not going to open your email? There are just this is all just me being a marketing geek here, just thinking through like ways that are like, ooh, like I want to see what this is all about. So I'll send these slides to you just to give you some ideas. But like I mentioned, MailChimp is a great first place to start. I do have other service providers I recommend, but if you want to show your product visually, MailChimp does a pretty good job of this. And I think it's free to your first 1,000 or 2,000 subscribers. So it makes it pretty accessible for people to get started. And then of course, if you want to nerd out, you can tag, you can segment, you can really see who your best customers are, see who your new customers are, who the single order people are, and use this way of like almost like CRM, customer relationship management, to see what kind of buyers you have, because you want to see where people are at on the customer journey. How do you take these like 30 buyers and turn them into raving fans? How do you nurture those relationships? And using that list can really help. So as we wrap up, how to stand out in 2021. You can have a presence on all these platforms and still not really show up powerfully, right? You can like produce content and be a machine like Gary Vaynerchuk and still not make an impact. So like I said before, Sally Hogshead has this quote that different is better than better. Lean into how you are different. Include yourself in it, of course. And why is buying from you different than buying from anyone else? Consistency really is the name of the game a lot of times in social. So if every Tuesday you're going to offer a tip, do it every Tuesday for a year. Build that muscle of consistency so it's not painful for you to be like, what do I do? What do I post? Like, give yourself one thing you'll do on a weekly basis and like ride that really for a long time. So you build that muscle. And you become more valuable when you take time to appreciate someone, when you connect people to other people or opportunities, and when you offer value. When you really show up to connect, engage, inspire, and not push things out at people, you feel that in the bottom line of your business and the opportunities that come to you over and over again. And then create great content. So quality over quantity every time. Instead of pushing out more, how do you share something that takes maybe a little bit longer to write or a little bit longer to produce? That tends to have more of an impact than simply quantity. Then of course, data over drama. Like look at the data, look at the insights that social and email provide you, and make decisions not based on your emotions, not based on like, no one even opens my emails. Like, what is a good successful open rate? Like, what are you seeing over time? Like, treat everything like a science experiment and remove yourself from like being so emotionally attached to outcomes. Like, if you create a hypothesis and it doesn't work, change. You are not invaluable. Like, you are still an amazing, epic human, even if your social media posts flop. Like, change direction, be a scientist. Like, if you get in that mindset, it's really helped me when sometimes things like don't go as planned. And of course, bringing it back to this, moment of connecting, helping people feel better than when they left, but when they first engage with you versus after. We want them to feel more supported and more connected. So if you love this content, of course, like we just opened local business school. I will just say that right now. So if anyone's like, I need more, I want to keep growing, I love this program, but I'm hungry to keep growing, feel free to reach out. This is just a 6-week program that helps people kind of continue to grow that brand, their online presence, to generate more profitability and become a really local beloved brand. So that is all I have for you. And I think, I have a little bit of time to answer questions. Can I pop open the chat? Is that cool?
That's fine. Or if anybody wants to pop on and ask questions too, we've got 4 minutes.
Yeah. Any comments on Reels? Yeah, I'll let someone, if anyone wants to pop in, and I can start answering just a few of these. Okay, Tammy asked comments on Reels. My comments on Reels is that it's, Instagram says it's a great way to reach a lot of people, but they haven't quite given us all the analytics on it. So they give you perception that you get tons and tons and tons of views on Reels, but that might be like a 1-second view, right? So there's this overinflation, I think, because they're trying to compete with TikTok. But Reels is really good at like reaching a really broad audience. And I think it's fun. If you like that content, create it. It's a lot of work. But if you enjoy videos and enjoy putting these things together, I think it's fun. It definitely adds some fun flavor and entertainment to the social feeds, but I don't think it's necessary. So when people feel this pressure to create Reels, you can still build success on Instagram without Reels. That's weird. Alyssa, Insta question, my algorithm seems to be stuck on opinionated, uneducated moms because Insta Reels tends to those tend to go viral a little bit more. You just kind of get some really wild comments. I've seen a lot of friends who are successful with Reels in terms of getting virality, get just jerks commenting. You can use different hashtags if that might help, but just know when you go into the world of Reels, you're kind of speaking outside of your own positive community you've probably built. Just delete those comments. That's not okay. I don't know exactly how you position your brand, so I'd maybe need to look a little bit more, but I'm sorry you get that. That's not cool. Update your bio, great. Content created on the app itself, yes, is typically better. If you use Facebook Live, on your phone like this and use the app, that will tend to be better than you just importing an older video. I still think video is great and people want to consume it as much as you can add captions, which is easy-ish to do through Instagram and Facebook. I say easy-ish. Email marketing is huge. Yes. Yes, so true. Cool. Yep, can send you the email marketing course. Local hashtags. Oh yeah, I'll put them here. DSM, USA, right, Christina? Catch DSM, Des Moines, Iowa. I'm like, there's so many. We can create some new ones too. I feel like these have got so many posts now that it's kind of like, it's just a lot. So, oh, sorry, I just put this, I didn't share that publicly. I just shared that to Megan, sorry. There you go. DSM.
Emily, we talked a little bit about local business school and then like the stuff that you offer in your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so local business school, 6-week program, doors open October 4. Basically, we're bringing in some subject matter experts to really dive into things like, what do you need to know about SEO, right? Like, how do you incorporate that in your website? Copywriting for social media and for your website to convert discovery to buyer. We've got personal brand content we're going to be really diving into with Whitney Warren. There's so much that we have isolated as like for that scrappy entrepreneur who is like, oh, I'm not ready to hire someone, or I'm not quite ready for an agency, but I want to stop DIYing things. I want to stop reading all these blogs or going to YouTube or just guessing. Like we've really created like 6 weeks, like you will have an abundance of information that will actually move the needle in your business. So localbusinessschool.com will get you all the info on the class times, schedule, pricing options, and things like that. So that's coming up. And Flourish, I'll share tonight, it's happening. So we have an opportunity for 3 women to pitch their business idea. They get 10 minutes and one of those individuals gets to leave with cash to grow her business idea. So we really are trying to create space in Des Moines to have community investment in ideas that matter. So 3 finalists, 2 have home-based businesses, I believe. So Just Desserts is one of them. And then Marty with Thistle Summit is another. And then Wendy B LLC is kind of an empowerment coach. And so it's going to be fun. It's at Jasper Winery. Tickets are still available, but we are getting close to being at capacity. It's going to be outside. So we just have a little bit different seating arrangement. And the Des Moines Partnership is a sponsor of Localize. So all of us here are pretty passionate about it. And yeah, I think that's all I have officially to share.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily, for sharing. Do you mind dropping your email in the chat in case somebody would like to reach out to you? And we're saving the chat for the people that are wanting the recording. So
yes, there's that.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was a wealth of knowledge. And I know those things are always changing and you are on top of those changes. So it's great just to be able to tap the resource and say, help me. And anyone that is looking to grow that course is amazing. Just like she mentioned, not everybody can afford to hire someone, but if you know how to use it toward your advantage, it really does go a long way. All right, we're going to take.
Sorry,
What's that?
Everybody can take a break, but I do want to give a shout out. Emily does a beautiful podcast. It's about local businesses. There's so much great information in it. Also, she does a new thing called, it's basically like How I Built This. It's a YouTube series where she interviews local businesses and they talk about how they were built. Those are also great resources. And if you're part of her Love Local Instagram page, she has lots of Instagram or Facebook lives that she has done. I've gone through personally and like rewatched a lot of them to get information from insurance to, I think she did one specifically about email marketing. So if you need more resources, Emily has put out so much actual free content that you can get that you can utilize for your business. You just have to be willing to go get it. So it's all there. So highly recommend following her on all of her social handles.
Thanks, Chelsea. That's a lot. Thank you so much for the opportunity to connect. It's nice to meet all of you.